What's good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai, so anyone here bringing you another video. Today I am continuing with the reaction series related to Star Wars. Now, since we've done 4, 5, and 6, we are moving on to 1, which is episode 1 of Star Wars, which is known as The Phantom Menace. Considered by a lot of people one of the worst Star Wars movies they've done. I mean, people tend to consider 1, 2, and 3 bad in general, and 3 usually gets the most positive response, even though 3 isn't ideal. But I do think that, 1 tends to get the most, upfront hate. Understand this now, though. I actually have a lot of commercials for 1, so it should be interesting. This time it's going to be a lot less of an emphasis on toys. There are some toys for episode 1. Episode 2 I've also looked into. I couldn't find any real commercials that were interesting. And I don't want to do just TV spots or trailer commercials because if you haven't seen the movie by now, look it up. I'm sorry to say that, and you may think that I'm being a little bit rash, but it's just like, you can see movie trailer anytime, but commercials that maybe have to do with a product or something like that, it's a little bit more interesting, and it's a little bit more like what I'm looking for rather than focusing on those. So if you want to see that kind of stuff, well, I'd suggest looking somewhere else or just watching the movie itself. But in this case, it's more of like product placement and toys and some other stuff. So let's move on to that stuff. For those who do not know, clearly you can tell that there's less of an emphasis on toys for that reason. So, Kenner really isn't as big of a deal as it was with 4, 5, and 6. Anyway, let's get moving on to our first commercial. So here we go.
The galaxy's most legendary heroes, fearsome villains, and coolest vehicles. Now available to take home and play with at Pizza Hut, KFC, and Taco Bell. Right now, at participating Taco Bell locations, you can get one of these cool Star Wars Episode 1 collectible toys, one in every Taco Bell kids meal you buy.
Okay, so that first commercial is a commercial for Taco Bell. Apparently they were doing a lot more of the toys. Sort of like Burger King and Wendy's and McDonald's, like they like to do, even still today. But yeah, Taco Bell was doing some episode 1 toy commercials and just in general, obviously advertising it and trying to get money from it. So that was a thing. And a bunch of other companies kind of were like trying to promote it as well. But Taco Bell apparently was doing their own thing in that regard. So, those toys look okay. It's episode 1, so if you like the toys, the merchandise, the characters, then sure, okay. Perfectly good commercial. Your typical toys in like meal commercial kind of stuff. Nothing too fancy, but just enough detail to get across like general purpose of it, and make it interesting. So cool commercial. Not much else I can really say right there. It's that's the thing. A lot of these are going to be very upfront, straight up, flat commercials that are not going to be necessarily as detailed toy wise or anything like that, or just in general merchandise. It's more like just promoting it, but it should be interesting. And it's kind of cool to look back at some of these older ones. I mean, that was back. Think about it this way: episode 1 was back in the 90s. I believe it was like 98, 99. So it's definitely a commercial that you're talking about that's old. It's not young, but it's not like super old, but it's definitely not the youngest thing ever. So it's cool to like reminisce a little bit. So that's cool. So let's keep going.
This summer, audiences everywhere are experiencing the incredible thrills, the unforgettable characters, and the ultimate Star Wars adventure. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Now playing rated PG, parental guidance suggested.
Okay, so that next commercial was mainly just kind of a commercial just for like the movie itself, probably something you would typically see like promoting it during the time that, it was probably close to being aired, or, something that you probably see on TV. And as I said before, I wasn't really focusing on getting a lot more of these more like trailer-based commercials, but sometimes they slip through, and this is one exception where I'll make. Don't hold me to anything sometimes, and that's just how it is. But it's cool to see these nice commercials every once in a while. And it wasn't the most popular movie ever, but it looks perfectly fine. And I know I'm constantly saying that, and that's because if you're a Star Wars fan, or you even know a decent amount of knowledge about Star Wars, typically how people act about 1, 2, and 3, and what their feelings towards these ones are. And I mean, for those fans that are like, oh, I hated 2, you're lucky, because you're not going to get many 2 commercials. I couldn't really find any. I actually found 3 and 1. I didn't see any 2 commercials that either really existed or I could just in general find, oddly enough, which is really bizarre, other than trailers and stuff. And I didn't want to go into trailers because it just doesn't make sense. So yeah. So otherwise, this was okay. Let's keep going.